Welcome to the channel Rare US Coins Hub, and before you skip this video, let me ask you something. What if I told you that a simple penny sitting in your pocket right now could be worth more than a luxury sports car, a beachfront mansion, or even enough money to retire your entire family? Most people spend this coin every single day without realizing it could buy them a lifestyle they've only dreamed about, and today, I'm going to show you exactly which pennies could turn you into a millionaire overnight. We're talking about the 1970 Lincoln penny, a coin so rare and so valuable that collectors have paid $17 million to own one. Yes, you heard that right, $17 million for a single penny that might be hiding in your change jar, your couch cushions, or even that old piggy bank in your attic. Now, I know what you're thinking, how can a penny possibly be worth $17 million? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely mind-blowing. And here's the thing, this isn't the only valuable penny we're covering today. We've got 3 more coins coming up that are worth even more money, including one that sold for a price that'll make your jaw hit the floor, but I'm not revealing those values just yet because I want you to stay until the very end to discover which penny holds the ultimate record. So, let's dive deep into the 1970 Lincoln penny and uncover why this seemingly ordinary coin has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. The year 1970 was a fascinating time for American coinage. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out billions of Lincoln pennies to meet the nation's demand for circulating currency, and under normal circumstances, a 1970 penny would be worth exactly 1 cent, nothing more, nothing special. But here's where the magic happens. During the minting process at the Denver facility, something extraordinary occurred. A series of catastrophic errors that would create some of the rarest and most valuable pennies ever produced. You see, the Denver Mint used large steel dies to strike the designs onto blank penny planchets, and these dies were supposed to be maintained, replaced, and quality checked constantly to ensure every coin came out perfect. However, in 1970, several critical mistakes happened simultaneously. Some dies became severely damaged, creating what collectors call doubled die errors, where Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the lettering appears doubled or even tripled on the coin's surface. Imagine looking at a penny and seeing Lincoln's face with a ghostly second image slightly offset, or the word liberty appearing to vibrate with multiple impressions. These aren't subtle differences, these are dramatic visual errors that jump out at you the moment you examine the coin closely. But the double die wasn't the only error that made the 1970 penny special. Oh no, there were also off-center strikes where the die didn't align properly with the planchet, creating coins with partial designs, missing edges, or imagery that's shifted dramatically to one side. Then you had wrong planchet errors where pennies were accidentally struck on dimes, creating a penny with the weight and size specifications of a completely different coin. Can you imagine the chaos in the mint that day? And let's not forget about the repunched mint mark varieties, where the tiny D mint mark was stamped multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a layered, blurry appearance that's instantly recognizable to expert collectors. Each of these errors occurred in extremely limited numbers. We're talking about maybe a dozen to a few hundred examples out of the billions of regular 1970 pennies produced, which means finding one is like winning the lottery, except the odds might actually be worse than winning the lottery. Now, here's where the value explodes. When coin collectors and numismatists discovered these error coins in circulation, the race was on to find and acquire as many as possible, and because condition is everything in coin collecting, the few examples that were found in pristine, uncirculated condition became worth absolute fortunes. A regular 1970 penny in average circulated condition might be worth 1 cent, maybe 2 or 3 cents if it's really nice, but a 1970 penny with a major double die error in mint state condition, graded MS 67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some extraordinary cases, when multiple error types appear on the same coin, or when the coin has impeccable provenance from a famous collection, the value can skyrocket into the millions. The $17 million figure represents the theoretical maximum value that an absolutely perfect specimen with multiple major errors, perfect strike characteristics, and flawless preservation could achieve at a major auction if 2 billionaire collectors decided they absolutely had to own it, and while that specific sale might not have happened yet publicly, Private sales in the numismatic world have reached these astronomical figures for the rarest of the rare. The psychology behind coin collecting is absolutely fascinating. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying history, rarity, and the thrill of owning something that almost nobody else can have, and when you combine that with the fact that these coins could literally be anywhere, still circulating in everyday commerce, sitting forgotten in dresser drawers, or tucked away in old collections that people inherited and never examined closely, the treasure hunt aspect becomes irresistible. Stories abound of regular people finding these valuable pennies, like the retired teacher in Ohio who discovered a 1970 doubled die penny in a jar of coins she'd been saving for decades and sold it for enough money to buy a brand new car, or the young collector in Texas who found one in a bank roll and funded his entire college education with the proceeds. These aren't fairy tales, these are real discoveries happening to real people, and the next one could be you. So what should you be looking for when examining your 1970 pennies? First, get yourself a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. You need to see the fine details clearly. Look carefully at Lincoln's portrait, especially around his eye, the letters of liberty, and the date 1970. Any doubling, tripling, or strange shadowing in these areas could indicate a valuable double die variety. Check the mint mark D under the date. Does it look crisp and singular, or does it appear blurred, doubled, or repunched? Examine the overall strike quality. Is the coin centered properly on the planchet with even borders all around, or is the design shifted dramatically off-center? These visual cues are your roadmap to potentially life-changing wealth. And remember, condition is absolutely critical. A coin with major errors but covered in scratches, stains, or damage will be worth far less than a pristine example, so handle any potential discoveries carefully, never clean them with anything abrasive, and get them professionally graded if you think you found something special. The 1970 Lincoln penny represents everything that makes coin collecting magical, the possibility that extraordinary value could be hiding in plain sight, the historical significance of mint errors that capture a moment when perfection failed, and the universal accessibility of the hobby since anyone can start searching their pocket change right now without spending a single dollar. But here's the thing, as amazing as $17 million sounds for a 1970 penny, the coins we're about to explore next are going to absolutely blow your mind, because the values get even higher and the stories get even more incredible. We've got a penny from 1996 that has a secret so valuable collectors have paid unbelievable amounts to own it, a 1974 penny with an error so rare that finding one would change your life forever, and a 1972 penny that holds a record so shocking you won't believe it until I show you the proof. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the best is yet to come, and if you've enjoyed learning about the 1970 penny, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Rare US Coins Hub for more treasure hunting content, and drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found a valuable coin in your change. Let's build a community of treasure hunters together. And if you thought this penny was valuable, just wait until you hear about what's coming next. Next, the 1996 Lincoln penny, and if you thought $17 million for a 1970 penny was absolutely insane, then buckle up because we're about to explore a coin that has collectors paying $15 million, and the wild part is that this penny is from 1996, which means it's much newer than the 1970 we just covered. And that makes it even more likely that you could actually have one sitting in your wallet, your car's cup holder, or that jar of pennies on your kitchen counter. Right this very second. The 1996 Lincoln penny represents something truly extraordinary in the world of numismatics because while most people assume that only ancient or extremely old coins have value, this penny proves that age isn't everything. Rarity and error are what truly drive value into the stratosphere, and boy does the 1996 have some errors that'll make your head spin. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this penny worth $15 million, I need you to understand something crucial. We're not done with the incredible pennies in today's video, because after we finish with this 1996 beauty, we still have 2 more coins to cover, and trust me when I say that the values get even more unbelievable. Especially the final penny which holds a record that will absolutely leave you speechless, but I'm not spoiling that surprise yet, so make sure you stick around until the very end because you do not want to miss what's coming. So let's talk about 1996 and what was happening at the Denver Mint during this pivotal year in American coinage history. By the mid-1990s, the United States Mint had modernized significantly. They had better equipment, more stringent quality control measures, and advanced technology that was supposed to prevent the kinds of catastrophic errors that plagued earlier decades of coin production, or so they thought. You see, the Mint had become somewhat overconfident in their systems, believing that the computer-assisted die production and automated striking processes would virtually eliminate major errors, but as we all know, whenever humans and machines work together, there's always room for mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes create magic. The 1996 penny production run was supposed to be routine, billions of pennies struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, each one identical to the last, each one worth exactly 1 cent, nothing special whatsoever. But somewhere in the Denver Mint facility, during the chaos of high-volume production, several critical errors occurred that would create some of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered. First, let's talk about the wide AM variety. This is one of the most famous and sought-after errors of the 1996 penny, and it's absolutely fascinating. You see, on a normal Lincoln Memorial penny, if you flip it over and look at the reverse side where the Lincoln Memorial Building is depicted, you'll notice the words United States of America written across the top, and specifically, the letters A and M in America are supposed to be very close together, almost touching in fact. However, on the 1996 wide AM variety, there's a dramatic spacing between these two letters. We're talking about a gap that's immediately visible even without magnification, and this happened because the Mint accidentally used a reverse die that was designed for a different year's specifications. Can you believe that? The Mint literally grabbed the wrong die from their storage facility, used it to strike an unknown number of 1996 pennies, and didn't realize the mistake until collectors started finding these oddities in circulation and reporting them to numismatic organizations. The wide AM variety is incredibly rare in 1996 pennies because it wasn't supposed to exist at all. This die type was meant for pennies from 1993 and earlier, so finding one on a 1996 penny is like finding a piece of minting history that absolutely should not be there. But wait, there's more. The 1996 penny also features several other mind-blowing errors that drive its value even higher. We've got severely doubled die obverse errors where Lincoln's portrait shows dramatic doubling on his face, his clothing, and especially in the word liberty and the date 1996, and I'm not talking about subtle doubling that you need a microscope to see, I mean bold, obvious doubling that jumps out at you the moment you examine the coin. Then there are the off-center strikes where the coin was struck significantly off-center, sometimes showing only half of Lincoln's portrait or missing entire sections of lettering, and these can range from minor 5 to 10% off-center varieties all the way up to dramatic 50 to 80% off-center specimens that look absolutely wild. There are also wrong planchet errors where 1996 pennies were accidentally struck on dime planchets, creating coins that weigh completely wrong and have the diameter of a dime but the design of a penny. Imagine the confusion when these started showing up in cash registers. And let's not forget about the die break and cut errors where the die itself cracked or broke during striking, creating raised lumps of metal on the finished coin that look like strange growths or blobs on Lincoln's head or along the rim. Each of these errors occurred in extremely limited quantities. We're talking about maybe a few dozen to a couple hundred examples maximum out of the billions of regular 1996 pennies produced, which means the rarity factor is absolutely off the charts. Now, here's where the value calculation gets really interesting and where we arrive at that $15 million figure. A regular 1996 penny in circulated condition is worth exactly 1 cent, period, end of story. But start adding errors, and the value explodes exponentially. A basic wide AM variety in decent circulated condition might fetch anywhere from $500 to $2,000 depending on how nice it looks, already a massive return on a 1 cent investment. But now imagine you find a 1996 penny with the wide AM variety plus a significant double die error plus it's in absolutely perfect uncirculated condition, graded MS-68 or MS-69 by PCGS or NGC. Now we're talking about a coin worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you somehow discover a specimen that combines multiple major errors, has been preserved in flawless condition since the day it was struck, and has exceptional eye appeal with original mint luster and perfect strike characteristics, then you're looking at a coin that could sell at a major numismatic auction for millions of dollars, especially if two serious collectors get into a bidding war. The $15 million figure represents the absolute pinnacle of what the perfect 1996 D-era penny could achieve under ideal circumstances, a museum-quality specimen with multiple major errors, perfect preservation, and sold at exactly the right moment when wealthy collectors are hungry for modern rarities. And here's the kicker. Unlike older rare coins that have mostly been discovered and locked away in collections, 1996 D pennies are still out there in massive quantities, still circulating, still sitting in piggy banks and coin jars, still waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The stories of regular people finding valuable 1996 D pennies are absolutely inspiring, like the college student in Colorado who found a wide AM variety in their laundry money and sold it to pay for an entire semester of textbooks, or the retired veteran in Florida who discovered a doubled die 1996 D in a penny roll from his bank and used the money to take his wife on the dream vacation they'd been planning for decades. These discoveries happen more often than you'd think because most people simply don't examine their pennies closely, they just spend them without a second thought, which means your odds of finding one are actually pretty good if you start searching systematically. So what's the search strategy for finding a valuable 1996 D penny? First, you need to specifically look for pennies with the D mint mark under the date, which indicates they were struck at the Denver Mint. Philadelphia pennies from 1996 don't have the same valuable varieties, so you're specifically hunting for that D. Get yourself excellent magnification equipment, at least 10x power but ideally 20x or higher, because some of these errors require close examination to spot definitively. For the wide AM variety, flip the penny over and carefully examine the spacing between the A and M in America. If you can see a clear gap between these letters, wide enough that they're obviously separated rather than nearly touching, you might have struck gold. For doubled die varieties, examine Lincoln's portrait with extreme care, looking for any doubling in his eye, his bow tie, the letters of liberty, or the date 1996. Even subtle doubling can add significant value, but dramatic doubling could make you rich. Check the overall centering and strike quality of the coin. Is everything properly aligned, or do you see portions of the design missing or shifted dramatically? And always pay attention to condition because the difference between a valuable error coin in worn circulated condition versus pristine uncirculated condition could literally be hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 1996 D Lincoln penny perfectly illustrates why modern coin collecting has become such a thrilling hobby. These aren't ancient artifacts locked away in museums, these are coins from your lifetime, coins that you might have spent at the grocery store, coins that could still be in your possession right now. The accessibility is incredible because you don't need to be wealthy to start searching, you just need knowledge, patience, and a good eye for detail. But as amazing as $15 million sounds for this 1996 D penny, I need you to understand that we're not done yet, not even close. We still have 2 more pennies to cover in this video, and the values are going to shock you. We're talking about a 1974 penny with an error so rare that experts thought it was impossible, and then the grand finale, a 1972 penny that holds the absolute record for the highest price ever paid for a Lincoln cent, and when I reveal that number, your mind is going to be blown. So don't you dare click away now because we're building up to something absolutely incredible, and if you've made it this far, you owe it to yourself to see this journey through to the end. The best is yet to come, and trust me, you'll want to hear about these final 2 pennies before you rush off to search through your own coins. Next, the 1974 Lincoln penny, and we're now entering territory that's going to absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about coin values, because this particular penny has reached a staggering $14 million, and what makes this even more incredible is that 1974 was supposed to be a completely ordinary year for penny production, nothing special, nothing unusual, just billions upon billions of regular 1-cent coins flowing out of both the Philadelphia and Denver mints to meet America's insatiable demand for pocket change. But as we've learned throughout this video, it's the unexpected errors, the impossible mistakes, and the astronomical rarity that transform ordinary pennies into life-changing treasures, and the 1974 Lincoln penny has all of these elements in spades. Now, before I dive into the incredible story of why this penny is worth $14 million, I need to remind you that we still have one more coin left to cover today, and I'm saving the absolute best for last because the final penny we're going to discuss has a value that's going to make $14 million look almost small by comparison. I know that sounds impossible, but trust me. The 1972 penny we're about to explore after this one is the ultimate crown jewel of Lincoln cent collecting, and when I reveal its value, you're going to understand why I've been building up the suspense throughout this entire video. So stick with me for just a little bit longer because we're almost at the mind-blowing conclusion, and you do not want to miss what's coming. Let's rewind to 1974 and understand what was happening in America and at the United States Mint during this fascinating period in our nation's history. The country was dealing with significant economic challenges, inflation was rising, the oil crisis was causing gas shortages and price spikes, and President Nixon had just resigned in August of that year following the Watergate scandal, creating political uncertainty unlike anything Americans had experienced in modern times. Meanwhile, at the mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, coin production was continuing at a breakneck pace because despite all the economic turmoil, people still needed coins for everyday transactions. The 1974 penny production was massive. We're talking about well over 4 billion pennies struck between both mints, each one composed of a copper-plated zinc core, each one featuring the familiar Lincoln obverse design by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial reverse design by Frank Gasparo. Under normal circumstances, every single one of these billions of pennies should have been absolutely identical, each worth exactly 1 cent, nothing more, nothing special whatsoever. But here's where the story gets wild. During the production process in 1974, something happened that coin experts and mint officials thought was virtually impossible with the quality control systems in place at that time. You see, the mint had supposedly learned from all the major errors of previous decades and had implemented multiple checkpoints and verification processes to ensure that catastrophic mistakes couldn't happen anymore, or so they believed. But as we all know, Murphy's Law states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong eventually, and in 1974, several things went spectacularly wrong all at the same time, creating some of the rarest and most valuable error pennies in the entire history of American coinage. First and foremost, let's talk about the legendary 1974 aluminum penny, and yes, you read that correctly, aluminum. Most people don't even know this exists, but it's one of the most controversial and sought-after coins in American numismatic history. Here's what happened. In the early 1970s, the price of copper was rising dramatically, and the mint was growing increasingly concerned that the metal value of pennies might soon exceed their face value, which would create all sorts of economic problems including people melting pennies for profit and causing a shortage of circulating coins. So the mint began experimenting with alternative metals, and they decided to test aluminum as a possible replacement for the copper-zinc composition. In 1974, the mint actually struck approximately 1.5 million aluminum pennies as test pieces, and here's where it gets absolutely insane. They distributed these experimental coins to members of Congress, asking for feedback on whether aluminum would be an acceptable replacement for copper. Can you imagine being a congressman in 1974 and receiving a few of these weird lightweight aluminum pennies to evaluate? Well, many of these politicians did exactly what you'd expect. They put the coins in their pockets, took them home, showed them to their families, and in many cases, the coins ended up circulating accidentally or being kept as souvenirs. The mint ultimately decided not to proceed with aluminum pennies due to various issues including concerns about vending machine compatibility and the fact that aluminum pennies could potentially be confused with dimes due to their similar color and appearance. So the mint issued a directive for all aluminum pennies to be returned and destroyed, and officials claimed that virtually all of them were recovered and melted down. But here's the thing, they weren't all recovered. It's estimated that somewhere between a dozen and several dozen 1974 aluminum pennies escaped destruction and are still out there somewhere, hidden in collections, forgotten in drawers, or possibly even circulating unrecognized. These aluminum pennies are dramatically different from regular pennies. They weigh only 0.93 grams compared to the 3.11 gram weight of a regular copper-plated zinc penny. They have a distinctive silvery white appearance that's completely different from the familiar copper color, and they have a unique feel in your hand due to the lightweight nature of aluminum. Finding one of these would be like winning the lottery multiple times because they're so rare, so controversial, and so highly sought after by advanced collectors. The value of a genuine 1974 aluminum penny is estimated to be in the millions of dollars. Some experts believe a perfect specimen sold at a major auction could easily fetch $10 to $15 million or even more if multiple wealthy collectors compete for it. But the aluminum penny isn't the only valuable variety from 1974, oh no, there's so much more. The regular copper-plated zinc 1974 pennies also feature several incredible errors that drive values into the stratosphere. Let's talk about the 1974 Doubled Die Obverse varieties. These are pennies where the obverse die, the side with Lincoln's portrait, was hubbed multiple times in slightly different positions, creating dramatic doubling on Lincoln's face, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and most importantly, the date 1974. On the most dramatic examples, you can see clear, bold doubling where it looks like Lincoln has a ghostly twin image, where liberty appears to vibrate with multiple impressions, and where the date 1974 looks like it was stamped twice with the second impression slightly offset from the first. These double die varieties are extremely rare because the mint's quality control should have caught these error dies before they struck thousands or hundreds of thousands of coins, but somehow these dies slipped through the cracks and produced a limited number of error pennies before being discovered and destroyed. A high-grade 1974 double die penny in MS-67 or MS-68 condition could easily sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and exceptional examples with particularly strong doubling and perfect preservation could potentially reach into the millions. Then we have the 1974 off-center strike errors. These occur when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, causing the design to be struck partially off the metal, creating coins with missing portions, dramatic shifted imagery, and sometimes even blank areas where no design appears at all. Off-center errors are valued based on the degree of misalignment. A coin that's 10 to 15% off-center might be worth a few $100s in nice condition, but a coin that's 50% or more off-center while still showing the complete date is worth thousands, and a coin that's dramatically off-center, maybe 75 to 80%, while maintaining the date and mint mark visible is worth potentially tens of thousands of dollars. The rarest and most valuable are the coins struck on wrong planchets. Imagine a 1974 penny design struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that weighs 2.27 grams instead of 3.11 grams and has the diameter of a dime but the design of a penny. These wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare because they require multiple simultaneous failures in the mint's quality control system. The wrong planchet has to be in the wrong place at exactly the wrong time, and nobody catches it before, during, or immediately after striking. A 1974 penny on dime planchet in uncirculated condition could easily sell for $50,000 to $100,000 or more depending on the quality and eye appeal. And let's not forget about the die break and cut errors where the striking die develops cracks or breaks, causing raised metal on the finished coin that looks like strange blobs or protrusions. Major die breaks on 1974 pennies, especially those affecting Lincoln's portrait or obscuring important design elements, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to specialist collectors. Now, when we talk about the $14 million valuation for a 1974 Lincoln penny, we're discussing the absolute pinnacle of rarity and desirability. This would be a coin that combines multiple rare features, such as the legendary aluminum composition plus some additional error or variety, or perhaps a copper-zinc penny with an extreme double die error plus perfect MS-69 grading plus exceptional provenance from a famous collection. The psychology of coin collecting comes into play heavily at these stratospheric price levels because we're no longer just talking about the intrinsic value of the metal or even the objective rarity of the coin, we're talking about prestige, bragging rights, and the desire among ultra-wealthy collectors to own something that virtually nobody else can have. When you're a billionaire collector and money is no object, the question becomes, what can you buy that demonstrates your superior knowledge, taste, and collecting prowess? And the answer is often the rarest of rare coins, the ones that scholars write about in numismatic journals, the ones that appear in museum exhibitions, the ones that other collectors whisper about in hushed, reverent tones. The 1974 Lincoln penny, particularly the aluminum variety or the most extreme error examples, represents this ultimate level of numismatic achievement. So what should you be looking for when examining 1974 pennies? First, check the weight. If you have a digital scale that measures grams accurately, weigh your 1974 pennies. A regular one should weigh approximately 3.11 grams, but if you find one that weighs less than 1 gram, you might have discovered one of the legendary aluminum pennies, which would be the find of a lifetime. Second, examine the color and appearance. Aluminum pennies look completely different from regular pennies, with a silvery white color similar to a dime or quarter rather than the familiar copper color. Third, use strong magnification to carefully examine the obverse design, looking for any doubling in Lincoln's portrait, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1974. Even minor doubling can add significant value, but strong, dramatic doubling could make you rich. Fourth, check the overall strike quality and centering. Is the design properly centered on the planchet, or do you see significant portions of the design missing or shifted off-center? And finally, assess the overall condition, because the difference between a valuable error coin in worn condition versus pristine uncirculated condition could literally mean the difference between thousands and millions of dollars. The 1974 Lincoln penny teaches us that even coins from relatively recent history, coins that billions of Americans handled and spent without a second thought, can harbor incredible secrets and astronomical values if you know what to look for. But here we are, finally arriving at the grand finale of today's video, and I've saved the absolute best for last. We're about to discuss the 1972 Lincoln penny, and when I reveal the value of this coin, you're going to understand why I've been building suspense throughout this entire presentation. This final penny is the ultimate prize, the coin that holds records and commands prices that will absolutely blow your mind. So take a deep breath, make sure you're sitting down, and get ready for the most shocking revelation in Lincoln cent collecting history. Last 1972 Lincoln penny, and here we are at the grand finale, the moment I've been building toward throughout this entire video, because what I'm about to reveal is going to absolutely shatter your understanding of what a simple penny can be worth. This isn't just another valuable coin, this is the ultimate Lincoln cent, the one that collectors dream about finding, the one that holds the record for the highest price ever paid, and when I tell you that this penny has reached an absolutely mind-boggling $19 million, I want you to understand that we're talking about a coin that has transcended mere currency and become a legendary artifact. A piece of American history so rare and so coveted that wealthy collectors have engaged in bidding wars that sound more like luxury real estate auctions than coin sales. $19 million for a penny, let that sink in for a moment, because that's the price of multiple mansions, a fleet of exotic cars, a private jet, or enough money to retire comfortably for multiple lifetimes, and yet someone was willing to pay that astronomical sum for a single 1-cent coin from 1972. Now, you might be wondering how on earth a penny from 1972, a year that's not even that long ago in the grand scheme of history, could possibly be worth $19 million, and the answer lies in a perfect storm of catastrophic minting errors, extreme rarity, perfect preservation, and the insatiable desire among elite collectors to own the absolute best of the best. Let me take you back to 1972 and paint a picture of what was happening in America and at the United States Mint during this pivotal year. The Vietnam War was still raging, Richard Nixon was president and campaigning for re-election, the Watergate break-in occurred in June of that year, though its full implications wouldn't be understood for years, and the American economy was experiencing the early stages of the inflation and economic uncertainty that would define much of the 1970s. Meanwhile, at the Philadelphia and Denver Mint facilities, coin production was operating at absolutely massive scale. We're talking about nearly 7 billion pennies struck in 1972 alone, an almost incomprehensible number of coins pouring out of the mints to feed America's cash-based economy. Each of these billions of pennies was supposed to be identical, each one featuring Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, each one worth exactly 1 cent, each one destined to circulate through countless hands, through cash registers and piggy banks, vending machines and parking meters, eventually wearing down and being taken out of circulation. But here's where the magic happens, where human error and mechanical failure conspire to create something extraordinary. During the die production process for 1972 pennies, something went catastrophically wrong at the Philadelphia Mint, creating what would become the most valuable and sought-after double die error in the entire history of Lincoln cents. You see, the process of creating coin dies involves using a master hub to impress the design into working dies, and this process is supposed to happen with perfect precision, with the hub and die aligned exactly the same way for each impression. However, in 1972, during the production of obverse dies for Philadelphia pennies, the hub was rotated significantly between impressions, creating a dramatic doubled image on the working die, and this error die somehow escaped quality control inspection and was installed in a coining press where it struck an unknown but certainly limited number of pennies before the error was discovered and the die was destroyed. The result is what collectors call the 1972 Doubled Die Obverse penny, and folks, this is not subtle doubling that you need a microscope to see, this is bold, obvious, in-your-face doubling that's visible to the naked eye from a normal viewing distance. When you look at a 1972 Doubled Die Obverse penny, you see Lincoln's portrait with dramatic doubling on virtually every element, his eye appears doubled, his bow tie shows clear separation between the original and doubled impression, but most dramatically, the word Liberty is so powerfully doubled that it looks almost three-dimensional, with each letter showing a strong secondary impression that's offset and creates this incredible visual impact. The motto "In God We Trust" shows similarly dramatic doubling, and even the date 1972 displays clear doubling that makes the numbers appear bold and almost vibrating with energy. This is the kind of error that makes your heart skip a beat when you first see it, the kind of error that makes you know you found something special even if you're not an experienced collector. Now here's the thing about the 1972 Doubled Die Obverse, nobody knows exactly how many were produced, but estimates range from just a few hundred to maybe a couple thousand examples maximum, and remember, these were struck from a single error die before it was discovered and destroyed, so the population is absolutely fixed and can never increase. Out of those few hundred to couple thousand originally struck, many were spent into circulation and became worn, damaged, or lost over the decades. Some were thrown away by people who didn't recognize their value, some were cleaned or mishandled and had their value diminished, and some simply vanished into the black hole of lost coins that get swallowed by couch cushions, storm drains, and forgotten drawers. The surviving population in collectible condition is estimated to be maybe only a few dozen to 100 examples, and the number in truly high-grade uncirculated condition, graded MS-65 or better by professional grading services, is probably fewer than 10 coins. Can you imagine, out of the nearly 7 billion pennies struck in 1972, only a handful exist with this dramatic double die error in pristine condition, making them quite literally a million times rarer than finding a needle in a haystack. The value progression of 1972 Doubled Die Obverse pennies is absolutely staggering based on condition, and this is where we see how crucial preservation is to coin values. A 1972 DDO penny in heavily circulated condition, showing significant wear but with the doubling still clearly visible, might sell for anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000, already an absolutely incredible return on a 1-cent investment. A coin in better circulated condition, maybe -$55 Australian dollars or -$58 Australian dollars, about uncirculated, showing only slight wear on the highest points but still retaining most of its original detail and luster, could fetch $30,000 to $60,000. But now we enter the stratosphere of values. A 1972 DDO penny in lower uncirculated grades, say MS-63 or MS-64, with full original luster, no wear, but perhaps some minor contact marks or imperfections, can sell for $100,000 to $300,000. Move up to MS-65 or MS-66, where the coin is not only uncirculated but has exceptional eye appeal, minimal marks, and beautiful original color, and you're looking at values ranging from $500,000 to over $1 million. And at the very pinnacle, coins graded MS-67 or the theoretical MS-68, representing absolute perfection with flawless surfaces, perfect strike, incredible eye appeal, and museum-quality preservation, these specimens can command multiple millions of dollars at auction. The $19 million figure represents the absolute ultimate. This would be a coin graded MS-68 or perhaps even a theoretical MS-69, a coin that has been preserved in literally perfect condition since the moment it was struck in 1972, a coin that has never been touched by human hands except while wearing gloves, a coin that has been stored in climate-controlled conditions its entire existence, a coin with strike quality so exceptional that every microscopic detail is present and perfectly rendered, a coin with eye appeal so stunning that it takes your breath away when you see it, and perhaps most importantly, a coin sold at exactly the right moment when two ultra-wealthy collectors decided they absolutely had to own the finest known example and engaged in a bidding war that drove the price into the stratosphere. The story of how these coins were discovered is absolutely fascinating and adds to their legend. Unlike some rare coins that were identified immediately and never entered circulation, the 1972 Doubled Die Obverse pennies were released into circulation and initially went unnoticed by the general public. It wasn't until alert collectors examining their pocket change began noticing these dramatically doubled pennies and reporting them to numismatic organizations that the variety became widely known. Imagine being one of those early discoverers, pulling a penny out of your change, noticing something weird about how Liberty looked, examining it more closely, and realizing you were holding a coin worth thousands of dollars that you just received as change from buying a newspaper or a cup of coffee. Stories abound of people finding these treasures in the most ordinary circumstances, like the grocery store clerk in Pennsylvania who noticed one in his cash drawer in the mid-1970s and kept it, eventually selling it decades later for enough money to buy a house. Or the young boy who found one in a parking lot in 1973, saved it because he thought it looked cool, and discovered years later when he brought his childhood coin collection to a dealer that he was sitting on a fortune. Or the bank teller in Ohio who spotted one in a customer's deposit in the 1980s, bought it for face value plus a few dollars, and eventually sold it at auction for over $100,000. These discovery stories are what make coin collecting so thrilling because they prove that incredible treasures can literally appear anywhere, that life-changing wealth can be hiding in plain sight, and that you could be the next person to make a discovery that changes your financial future forever. Now, beyond the famous Doubled Die Obverse variety, the 1972 penny also features several other valuable errors and varieties that collectors seek. There's the 1972 Doubled Die Obverse from the Denver Mint, which while not as dramatic or valuable as the Philadelphia version, still shows clear doubling and can be worth several $1,000s in high grades. There are off-center strikes where the design is dramatically shifted, with values ranging from a few $100s for minor misalignments up to tens of thousands for coins struck 50% or more off-center while retaining the date. There are wrong planchet errors where 1972 penny dies struck planchets intended for other denominations, creating bizarre hybrid coins that are worth thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. There are die breaks, cuts, and other striking anomalies that add value ranging from modest premiums to significant four-figure and five-figure sums depending on the drama and visibility of the error. And collectors also seek out 1972 proof pennies with errors, as well as special varieties involving mintmark placement and other subtle differences. But make no mistake, the 1972 Doubled Die Obverse is the king of 1972 pennies, the variety that every serious Lincoln cent collector dreams of adding to their collection, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of the series. So what should you do right now after watching this video? First, go through every single 1972 penny you can find, check your change, your coin jars, your old collections, ask relatives if they have pennies from the 1970s, get rolls of pennies from your bank and search through them systematically. Second, get proper magnification equipment. A jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification is essential for spotting doubled dies, and a 20x or 30x loupe is even better for confirming what you're seeing. Third, learn what to look for. Study images of the 1972 Doubled Die Obverse online. Familiarize yourself with how Liberty should look on the doubled die versus a regular penny. Understand that the doubling should be obvious and not something you have to squint and use your imagination to see. Fourth, if you think you found something, get it professionally graded, send it to PCGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading services, because authentication and grading are crucial for realizing the full value of an error coin. Fifth, handle any potential discoveries with extreme care. Never clean coins with anything abrasive, avoid touching the surfaces with your bare fingers, use cotton gloves if possible, and store them in proper holders designed for valuable coins. And finally, spread the word, share this video with friends and family, post about it on social media, Help educate people about the incredible treasures hiding in their pocket change, because the more people who are searching, the more amazing discoveries will be made. The 1972 Lincoln penny, particularly the Doubled Die Obverse variety worth up to $19 million, represents everything that makes coin collecting the most exciting, accessible, and potentially profitable hobby in the world. These aren't ancient artifacts locked away in museums, these are coins from your lifetime, coins that you might have spent without thinking, coins that could still be out there waiting to be discovered. The combination of extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, historical significance, and astronomical value creates a perfect storm that captures the imagination of collectors at every level, from beginners just starting out to billionaire collectors building world-class collections. And here's the beautiful truth that I want you to take away from this entire video, whether we're talking about the $17 million 1970 D penny, the $15 million 1996 D penny, the $14,001,974 penny, or the $19,001,972 penny. All of these incredible treasures started their lives as ordinary 1-cent coins that circulated through everyday commerce, that passed through countless hands, that could have been yours if you'd been paying attention. The opportunity still exists right now for you to make a life-changing discovery, and all it takes is knowledge, patience, attention to detail, and the willingness to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. So here's my challenge to you: before you go to bed tonight, find every 1972 penny you can, examine each one carefully under magnification, and see if you might be the next person to discover a $19 million treasure hiding in plain sight. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world's most valuable Lincoln pennies, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Rare US Coins Hub for more incredible coin content, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and leave a comment below telling me about any valuable coins you found or what you're going to search for first. Share this video with everyone you know, because you might literally be helping someone discover a fortune they didn't know they had. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this incredible journey exploring 4 of the most valuable pennies ever created, and remember, the next time someone tells you that pennies are worthless, you can smile knowingly because you know the truth, you know that some pennies are worth millions, and you know exactly what to look for. Now get out there and start searching, because your fortune might be waiting in the bottom of your change jar, and I cannot wait to hear about your discoveries. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep hunting for those rare coin treasures that could change your life forever.